Right, we're homing in on where it said on that map the glassworks were. Pottery Street.
At the roundabout, take the second exit.
Is that it?
Turn right.
No,
Then
Pottery
you have
Street.
arrived.
Wow, I wonder if this is it. Man in bow tie with briefcase. The cavalry. Help is at hand.
Local historian John Goodchild has been looking into the early history of the Kilners.
It can't be a coincidence that you're knocking around here with a pipe and a bow tie.
Why is that?
Clarkson. Sorry?
Why is that?
Well, you just don't look like you fit, really, in
Oh,
here.
oh,
Rather conveniently, it's got like a sort of...
oh, that's splendid.
Are you able to help me with this quest that I have?
Indeed.
Wakefield, is going to be on this...
Amongst the documents that John has found is one that, for the first time, put some faces to the Kilner story. For Jeremy, it's an opportunity to look his ancestors in the eye.
Whoa! Here they all are, look. John, this is John Kilner. He appears to be smartly dressed.
This is the man who started what would become Kilner Glass. But when he first arrived here at Whitwood, he had something else in mind.
There were 5 working glass bottle makers who came, 'tis said, but there's no evidence, but they claimed, on a fishing trip to Castleford. And when they were here, they saw an old kiln which had been used for metal processing. And they thought that this would be very suitable for conversion into a glassworks. They had a joint capital of £70 and decided that they would set up in business on their own.
At the age of 37, John Kilner and his 4 friends set up the Black Flag Glassworks in this Yorkshire field.
So the Black Flag Works was somewhere at the back of these cottages.
Somewhere just here.
Yes.
Seems strange, it's all just weeds now.
Well, so much of industrial history is.
Just weeds. That's a funny thing to be standing, you know, your great-great-great-grand. I think, well, he did come fishing here, that's a known fact, and he did see a metalworks there. He was just a simple employee working, you know, as a glass blower. Hey, I could go on my own here.
"15 years later, with the Industrial Revolution gathering momentum, John Kilner left the Black Flag Partnership to set up his own glass factory 14 miles away, at Thornhill Lees.
Is that it? No. Brightside Industries Limited. The Yorkshire Electrical Transformers Club. Now, why aren't I a member of that? Probably the same reason I'm not a member of the Groucho. They'll just be full of media types.
In the 1840s, Thornhill Lees was an expanding industrial town. Now, it's a very different sight.
Providence Glassworks, here. It's where those trees are right now. What is this? A community centre? I mean, I don't know what this is, but it sure as hell isn't a glassworks. It's the surgery. Doctor's surgery. That's 110 years ago. That is a whopping factory. I mean, really massive. And it's just sports pitches now.
The booklet Jeremy was given in Whitwood turns out to contain more than just faces. Published by the Kilners in 1894 to celebrate their first 50 years in business, it tells the story of an industrial powerhouse.
1844, they did £250,000 worth of bottles out of here. 1893, estimated value of £305,000. They were exported to Australia, South Africa, West Indies, Bengal, Burma, Queensland, that is Australia, New Zealand, Victoria, which is Australia, America, Ceylon, Madras, they went absolutely everywhere. Jesus wept.
In 15 years, John Kilner had turned his original stake of a few pounds into a thriving international business. But amongst the impressive statistics, Jeremy can find no mention of the Kilnajar. According to the brochure, the Kilner's army of glassblowers were just producing ordinary bottles. But this was more than enough. Sales were so good that in 1864 John Kilner built a second factory at Conisbrough and opened 3 warehouses in London.
Really, there are 2 questions. How big did it become if that wasn't big enough? And what the hell happened to it? I mean, it's gone. There's no evidence it ever existed, apart from a few old ladies going, oh yeah, Kilnajars, I remember them.
With nothing left in Thornhill Lees, the next stop is the Kilner's warehouses on the Thames.
I must go to London. I've got to go and see if there's any part of these warehouses still left. And the pubs are open. Well, they seem to have opened a warehouse here and then opened another one, and then eventually opened another one, getting bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. Conveniently, the address doesn't exist anymore on the A to Z of the first one, but it's off Upper Thames Street in Brook Wharf, which, well, Upper Thames Street's up there, but between us and St Paul's Cathedral. Oh, hold on, a map. Millennium Bridge Inclinator. What is an inclinator? The Americans have been, haven't they, and invented a word. So, Millennium Bridge. Brook's Wharf. I think it is that big Victorian... Well, it is that big Victorian one. Follow me. The Kilners, we know, had a fleet of ships, loaded them up in Thornhill Lees, sailed them down the east coast, up the Thames, and to their warehouses here.
By the 1890s, the Kilner's Thameside warehouse was busier than ever. Demand for all kinds of alcoholic drinks was increasing, despite the efforts of teetotal reformers. And brand names were proliferating, each needing a new design of bottle. By 1894, the Kilners were making over 3,000 different varieties of glass bottles and jars. All of them were stored in their London warehouse.
Now this is Brook's Wharf. There's a description in the booklet about just how many thousands and thousands and thousands of bottles were on display there for customers to say, yeah, from the smallest vial to the largest show bottle, they call them. I don't know what those are. Presumably the things that we put coins in now to save lifeboats in pubs. But nevertheless, I mean, just every conceivable type of bottle was in there. Customers came down and said, oh, I'll have 1,000 of those, 100,000 of those, 20,000 of those. Onto more ships, which were presumably anchored here in these pilings, and then off to everywhere.
Kilner Glass was a classic Victorian family firm. With no death duties, 19th century businesses like the Kilners could be passed down through the generations. After John Kilner died, aged 65, his 4 sons took over Kilner Glass, each running a different department. Third son, George, was Jeremy's great-great-great-grandfather. But it was one of the next generation that would bring the Kilner Empire to its peak, George's son, Caleb. It was during Caleb's time that demand for consumer goods and packaging really took off. And it wasn't just alcohol. From medicines to food to chemicals, glass containers were in huge demand. The Kilners were in the right business.